Hello everyone and welcome back to Science Knowledge Base. Really excited for my first proper video. Let's get into it. Today I'm going to be chatting about the human circulatory system. Jumping straight in, that's my idea of the heart. Humans have a double circulatory system. There are two cycles. One cycle goes to the body and the other cycle goes to the lungs. And that's also where I realised my picture doesn't have a title, so I'm writing it now. Now I'm going to be drawing a diagram of the heart, and while I draw, I need you to bear in mind that the heart is a muscle and muscles need energy, for which they need oxygen. And for that, the heart itself needs its own supply of oxygenated blood, which it gets from the coronary circulatory system that branches off from the aorta. I'm going to leave a picture of this at the end just for reference. Back to the picture, remember your right is the paper's left and your left is the paper's right. It's like standing face to face to a person, except that person is the paper. In the diagram, the blue represents deoxygenated blood and the red represents oxygenated blood. Something else you realise, I've drawn the semilunar valves on the aorta and the pulmonary arteries, but I've forgotten to label them. Oops. So now you have the right atrium, the left ventricle, the right ventricle, the pulmonary veins, the inferior and superior vena cava, the pulmonary arteries, the tricuspid and bicuspid valves, and the aorta. Starting at the right atrium, blood drops into the right ventricles when the tricuspid valves open. The right ventricle contracts and deoxygenated blood gets pumped to the lungs through the pulmonary arteries to get oxygenated. Oxygenated blood then returns to the heart through the pulmonary veins into the left atrium. The bicuspid valves open and the blood drops into the left ventricle. When the left ventricle contracts, oxygenated blood gets pumped through the aorta to the rest of the body, where various processes and pathways take place and use oxygen, and then deoxygenated blood returns to the heart through the inferior and superior vena cava. With regards to the lub-dub sound that you hear through a stethoscope, the first lub sound is caused by the closure of the bicuspid and tricuspid valves, and the second dub sound is caused by the closure of the semilunar valves. Now we get on to the different types of blood vessels, and also get back to my drawing. The first type of blood vessel is an artery. As you know from primary school, arteries carry blood away from the heart, and blood flows under high pressure in them. So they need a thick outer wall and thick muscle and elastic fibers for strength and elasticity, to spring back into shape basically. The next type of blood vessel is a vein. As you already know, veins carry blood to the heart, and as the blood is going back to the heart and hasn't been pumped away from the heart, the blood is flowing under low pressure, so they have thin outer walls and thin muscle and elastic fibers. At this point I realised I hadn't drawn the valves, so here are valves. Veins have valves to prevent the backflow of blood due to the low pressure. And now I've labelled it. Going back to the original drawing in process, the last one is capillaries. These are where the exchange of substances takes place in the lungs and body, so they need to be thin and are only one cell thick. Finally, I'm going to be talking about the heart's electrical system. Originally I did this on my labelled diagram of the heart, but I ended up destroying the diagram in the process. So now I'm going to be working with this weird diagram of the heart that looks like a distorted rugby ball that may not even be anatomically accurate, but meh, this is what I'm going to be working with. I'm going to be putting the labels on at the end of this. So starting at the center atrial node at the top of the right atrium, generating an impulse to both atria, activating them. The impulse travels down to the atrioventricular node, where it is slowed down for a short while before it goes down to the bundle of His, the first conduction pathway. The impulse then travels down the right and left bundle branches and then to the Purkinje fibers. As the conduction pathways surround both ventricles, this causes both ventricles to contract and pump the blood out of the heart. As promised before, here are the anatomical features of the heart's coronary circulatory system. I found this diagram really useful and hope you do too. Just gonna disclaim, I did get this diagram from Wikipedia. That brings us to the end of this video. If you have any questions, write them in the comment section below and I will get round to them as soon as I can. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe and hit that bell icon so every time I release a video you get notified. See you again soon!